Hey everybody, this is George Bashura with Shakedown of Thunder Sports, and you're about to watch the two Irish brothers. Go Irish.
Going deep for Smith. Irv Smith. What a run by Smith. Look at that. Touchdown. Oh, my.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Sean Moriarty.
I'm Benjamin Walters.
And joining us is our good friend, who we haven't had on in a while, George Bashura. But the legend has returned. How you doing, George?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me back. Great. It's going to be great to talk with you.
Well, who knows how great it's going to be able to talk about this team. We're coming off a very rough loss to Clemson, and that's actually where I wanted to start real quick. Aside from telling everybody to make sure you hit the subscribe tab and like or dislike the video for algorithm purposes. But so, guys, obviously we're at the point in the season where things have turned out not exactly what we wanted. Playoff chances went away a while ago. Now we just lost our NY6 chances. Very disappointing. But what's George? What's your take on what you've seen so far to this point?
Well, you know what? It's weird how a season can go, right? Start off like gangbusters. Something happens, you lose a little momentum. You come back, you win a couple more, and then you lose another one. Yeah. We kind of what we talked about a little, before we started here. People start to know what you're going to do. And when you're changing things up at the beginning of the season, no one has film on you unless, you work for Michigan and you're stealing signs.
Love it.
People don't know what you're bringing to the game. And that's what happened with the beginning of the season. I think that's where we were at. No one knew what was coming. New offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees not in the box, and you got the guy Parker there sitting there in the box and bringing something new. But all of a sudden things change. People start seeing, getting some stuff on tape, start preparing differently, and it's just very hard. I mean, I don't understand. This team has shown signs of greatness. And then there's those moments. I mean, I could see I could see the loss to LSU. I could see the loss to the number one team in the country right now, Ohio State, right? But the 4-4 loss, to lose to a 4-4 team in Clemson, it made them look like they were back in their heyday when they were running the ACC. It's very weird.
Yeah, I know. And something I wanted to point out too, and I know that there's probably a bunch of factors into this and not just all on him, but Sam Hartman coming into the season, for lack of a better term, everybody was praising him and expecting him to do great things and be the next Joe Montana and so on. And I hate saying this, but it has to be addressed. He really has regressed as this season has gone along, especially in the last 3 or 4 games.
Does that fall back on your quarterbacks? Does that fall back on your quarterbacks coach, And the offensive coordinator? I was thinking about this earlier before I came on. When you talk to the 88 championship team, they say that the game is easier than the practice. Mm-hmm. Okay. We clearly don't have this here. We don't have a situation where the game is easier than the practice, because there wouldn't be a struggle against a 4-4 team.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it.
I think it all starts with the line. I mean, and this goes from Pee Wee ball all the way up to the NFL. And it all starts with the line. And in the games that we have lost, the offensive line has struggled. And the games that we have won decidedly, the offensive line has thrived. And you watch some of the mistakes that Hartman has made, and it's when he's throwing on the run, it's when he has pressure in his face, and it's when he's trying to do a little too much because he has defenders breathing down his neck. And we have seen this throughout probably the last 7-8 years where our offensive line struggles against an equal or greater opponent. Because, Clemson can come in with a 4-4 record, but the 4-4 record doesn't tell you that they have the same caliber of players, if not maybe in certain ranks of their, defense and stuff, better players, with their recruits and stuff. So, this is what goes on when you play a team that is as good, if not better than you. And I mean, let's not take anything away from the fact that we had every opportunity to beat Clemson. I mean, both my teams this weekend had every opportunity to win their games, and they didn't do what they needed to handle and do to win their games.
Well, the weird part is, and going back and look at the numbers, the penalties. I mean, when you look at a team that's lost, right? What are the factors that are in the game or that are coming and contributing to the loss, right? Because it's not just one play. It's a series of events. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
2 penalties for 15 yards is a pretty darn good game, by the way, considering where Notre Dame has been in the past weeks as far as penalties are concerned. Okay. So penalties aren't the issue. The next thing you got to look at is, the total plays. I mean, they were pretty much even. Okay. I was just looking for time of possession. I mean, there's so many different little factors that run into it. What doesn't help is the 2 interceptions, right? And there was a fumble, I believe, too, right? There was a fumble. So those become the things that you look at, right? And you question when you look at the final score, right? 31-23. Correct? Is that right? 31-23 was the final score.
Mm-hmm.
7 of those points was it a pick 6?
Yep.
Yes.
So now you take if you start breaking things backwards a little bit more, right? You look at things that you can control. That's what you got to do, right? You can only look at the things you can control. A pick 6 gives Clemson 24 points, right? So if they don't have the pick 6, it's 24 points.
Mm-hmm.
Best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, then you got to look at everything else that comes into play. Your running game, I mean, obviously the running game was not there because Estime did not have the game he typically has. And the whole running back room, didn't have a day that you would expect. And then your passing yards, it's not Sam Hartman like to throw for just 164 yards.
Yep.
So it's just not one play. It's a series of events. But where does that fall on, right? That falls on the coaches for the execution. The game should be easier than the practice.
You would think so. You would definitely think so. But all I know is, despite everything that's happened, knowing that we don't have the opportunities that we have anymore for the rest of the season, now you start looking forward. Okay, this game, the Clemson's now in the past. As fresh as it is, it's in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we got 2 more games coming up to end the regular season before we go to the postseason, whichever bowl game that happens to be. So this next test that we have coming up, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Now, this is the one that a lot of people have been talking about too, because it's Sam Hartman against his former team.
Yep.
Now, taking a look at Wake Forest, what they've done so far in the year, 4-5, which even that, honestly, this is a team that you can't sleep on either.
No.
We'll
get into that, but no.
Yeah, they're going to want to kick us while we're down. And obviously, how much they care about this, I don't know, but Sam Hartman left them.
Oh, they've had this, Sean, circled on their calendar since he entered the transfer portal. There's no doubt that their locker room fodder is going to be something to the effect that this guy we're going up against left you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's definitely going to be the motivation. I agree. But so yeah, they're 4-5. Couple of their losses they've been in, so they easily could have a couple more wins on the schedule. But regardless, doesn't matter too much. So let's start breaking down their playmakers. And as I always say, you guys know me, every team, and it's pretty much common sense too. It starts with the quarterback. So the quarterback is Mitch Griffiths, who has taken the majority of the reps, and the numbers don't look. Well, no, some of them do look pretty terrible, but he's passed for over 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and this is another stat to look at. He's been sacked 32 times. Now, I think that's the biggest key stat of all of them.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's you. As you said, it's the line. The offensive line has got to protect the quarterback.
You win or die by your line, period. I mean, the offensive line, everything runs through it. No pun intended. You know, if you need to get your passing game going, your offensive line has to do well. If you want to get your run game going, your offensive line has to do well. So, yeah, I mean, it's our defense has to key in on that. But like you said, this is a team that we cannot take lightly. Like, they only have, in my opinion, one ugly loss on their schedule. And that was the loss to Virginia Tech.
Yep.
I mean, Florida State did what Florida State was expected to do. They took Clemson to the wire. They took Duke to the wire, and Duke just barely survived. So, I mean, this is a team that can hang with Notre Dame. And if our defense doesn't get the pressure that it needs on Mitch, we're in trouble. But on the other side of that, it's the offense has to get rocking and rolling with the Fighting Irish.
You know what? It's there's just this really weird thing. Okay, teams. We've talked about this years ago, and it always comes up. Teams, Notre Dame's teams. It doesn't make a difference who the head coach is, who's the quarterback, whatever's going on. Always plays down to the level of their opponent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you fix that. You know, unless you get Lou Holtz back in the room and say, you know, you're going to work your new you-know-what off. But every year, Notre Dame has those games where they play down to their opponent and then they lose.
Yeah, Kirby Smart's the one to talk to, I think, about with that one. Because I mean, you know, you saw his players last year in the national title saying, you know, everybody doubted us, and it's like, who's telling you that? Like, who doubted you guys? Like, hold on a second. So,
actually, I can answer that question. A lot of people in their own fan base, because so many people are dogging.
You gotta have that fire, and I think that's something that, you know, like we had that fire against Southern Cal. You know, Southern Cal, the vibe and the mindset was, you know, screw these guys. These guys embarrassed us last year. They think they're all that. Let's, you know, ruin their season. And
it's consistency.
And it's like, that's got to be your mindset every game. You can't just have that mindset for Southern Cal, because when you go up against a team like Wake Forest, you let your guard down, and then we have what we've seen in the past, where either we barely win it at the very end, or that team just got like its most historic victory it's had in 50 years. You know, here's looking at Marshall. And, you know, it's like George said, where's the consistency, and how do you fix that? I mean, I don't know. You know,
you're not playing with the same intensity. It was not the same intensity.
I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't play for Notre Dame, you know, so I can't. But yeah, I mean, and this game's special. This game, like we said, they've had that circled on their calendar the minute that Hartman announced he's going to Notre Dame. The minute. Every guy in that locker room got on their phones and did Siri or whoever it is for Android and said, this game is the game. And on our side of things, it's senior day. This is our senior day. This is the day where, we say this is your last chance. This is your last time in Notre Dame Stadium. Enjoy it, but be wary because now you have a team that wants to beat you very, very badly.
And it's emotional it's very emotional anyway.
Right. So this game makes me really, really nervous. And thankfully we have some time to prepare for this game. I loved, because I was at the Pitt game, I loved how we responded, to the adversity that we faced and hit that bye week and then just kept on rolling. Something we haven't seen in the past where we come out of a bye week and we're like really crisp. We've seen a lot of the opposite until Marcus Freeman hit this campus. So hopefully that trend continues where we have a bye week to prepare for Wake Forest and we hit the ground running in Wake Forest as opposed to sputtering out of the gate. So, but time will tell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, George.
No, go ahead, Sean.
I was just going to say, like, really thinking about this, when you talk about, when you mentioned, George, about no intensity and, we're just wondering what goes on with this team. Like, why do they play down to their opponents? Going back to Clemson real quick, I think a part of it was the fact that they see that Clemson has a 4-4 record. They're not the same. They're not winning either. They're not going to a major postseason bowl game or the playoffs. So I think they took Clemson for granted as well. I think they figured, okay, we can come into Death Valley. It's not the same Clemson team, and yeah, that I think that's what it is. They see these teams, whether they're a bigger opponent or a smaller opponent, like a group of 5 team or even Clemson the way they are now, they figured, all right, you know what? We don't have to go as hard because we're expected to win this game anyway. It should come like a piece of cake to us. And that's where they make the mistake, I think.
I'm with Sam Hartman having the experience that his has, the experience that this offensive line has. Okay. And then you gotta flip. Then you gotta flip the side. Then you gotta flip the field and look at the defense, right? How does you can come out and pick on the offense all you want, right? It's easier to pick on offense because who scores your points? Offense.
Yeah. Well, okay. Then you look at yesterday. I didn't mean to cut you off, George, but yesterday was kind of the same thing. Defense goes back to how they were playing earlier in the season. Missed tackles galore.
I saw the comments.
Well,
I absolutely saw the comments.
You made a good and interesting point about the defense. The defense has played well this season, but when it hasn't played well in spots is when we need it to play well. I mean, it was a 3rd and 15, 16 that Ohio State converted to continue that drive that ultimately won them the game. I mean, that's 3rd and 15. That should be, I wouldn't say a walk in the park, but it shouldn't be a challenge where it's like when Philadelphia lines up for the tush push that they do with 1 yard to go, you're not doing that. I mean, you obviously know that this team's going to have to pass. And we saw it against Clemson too. There are times where what Clemson's bringing against you. And the execution and the lapses in judgment were in those spots. I just
one sack. Yeah, and the numbers where Notre Dame's been doing well has been in the sack department and the you want to call them, the yards for loss.
Yep.
Right? Only five tackles for loss for 21 yards.
Yep.
So, being a guy who didn't watch the game, was able to go through and you could read play by play and see what happens, right? You can see what's going on. But when you have 5 tackles for only total loss of 21 yards, that means the defense isn't getting to the quarterback. There's no rut. There's no hurries.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, how many times did we see that running back for Clemson break that initial tackle and go for 5 or 6 more yards?
Yeah, Maffa.
I mean, you have him behind the line of scrimmage, or you have him right at the line of scrimmage, and instead of giving it 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10, it's now, 2nd and 3 or 3rd and 3.
Yep.
Like George said, there's no tackles for loss. There's, those are the little things that add up.
It's the game inside the game.
Yep. I mean, and that's stuff that, like George said, the practice is harder than the game. That's stuff that Lou Holtz and every good coach that's won a championship talks about, is where's your fundamentals? Because it all starts with that. It's, are you catching the ball? Okay. Instead of looking downfield and starting to run, are you catching the ball? Are you making the tackle behind the line of scrimmage? Are you blocking the correct way that you need to be blocking and moving your guy out of the way of the running lane or away from your quarterback to avoid that pressure that he's going to feel? That's the game within the game. And we're not doing that in these games that we're losing. The last time you can, in my opinion, say that we did almost all of that was when we played Georgia in South Bend.
Yep.
And once again, the loss at the end of that game was a blindside tackle from our quarterback that fumbled the ball on the potential game-winning drive and iced it.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, I was reading stuff this week online, sticking with the defense, this whole discussion about Al Goldman and saying how the next guy in line is ready to go to take over the reins. Why have that kind of discussion?
Right.
There's no need to that even to come into the newspapers, into I should say newspapers. Like here I am talking like it's 1980s and 1990s.
Well, you knew what you meant. Different online articles and stuff like that.
In electronic media about Al Golden ready to hand over the reins. That should not even be something that's out there. That's something you keep inside the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
These are all downers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that sends a rift. That puts a rift, and that the vibe changes when you're hearing things like that. And whether it's true or whether it's not is beside the point. It's when these media outlets are talking about something like that, obviously they say, oh, the players, don't pay attention to that. Okay, well, you can say that. You can say the coaches don't pay attention to that, but
that's a load of garbage. I mean, they do.
Yep.
I mean, all of them have Twitter pages and Facebook pages and all that. So I mean, even if you're not trying to look for it, it's going to find you.
Well, let's be honest, guys. I wasn't looking to see what the latest coming out of, from the Notre Dame defensive coordinator, and then I see this thing pop up in front of me, and it makes me start thinking, right? I'm not gonna go and vocalize. Well, I am now. I'm not going to go and vocalize my opinion when I see the article because it's not something that I can control. But when you're given the opportunity, but to give an educated answer about what's going on, what are the different intricacies within the team that could be causing something.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of it. And there's just a lot that's out there. We had the whole thing this week with Jack Swarbrick and, People worrying about, playing the 8 games in a row without a bye week, right? That's stuff that you can't control, but that's what a coach has got to do. A coach has got to be able to control that stuff and say, guys, hey, we need to do intensity, but we're going to take it a little bit easy on you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there's all these little things, these distractions, if you want, that's what you want to call it. Talking about, Freeman's going to go, good, send him good, send him to Michigan State. There's a lot that goes into this. Now you have to be able to have a thick skin and get past it all, but there's just a lot. I played football up through midgets, and then I got a stinger. And my mother's like, "You're never playing again." Okay, so I was canceled from playing football. But there's so much football is a psychological sport.
Yep.
And I don't know. I mean, there's no answers.
I'll tell you what I agree with, and it's ironic that I'm mentioning him at this point in time, but I actually like what Dabo Sweeney said in that radio interview when he talked about how 98.5 of the or 98.5% of the Clemson fan base is great, but it's the 1.5 that is just cancer, or however he worded it. We have the same problem here, and I think that's probably the same problem everywhere possible.
Our number's a lot higher, though.
Yeah, I would say our number probably is a lot higher because, I mean, Clemson's at least silenced a lot of those people because they've won championships. But
yeah,
yes.
Well, you got a good point. Good point.
So, I made a statement today on Twitter, and if you want to segue here for a second, if you want, I can go get into that. It's your call.
Go for it. I'm always down to hear that kind of stuff.
So I put a thing out there. Hey, this is to those fans, okay, that seek out coaches' signatures, players' signatures, okay, and resell them. Okay. These folks, probably a vast majority of these folks that are out there trying to seek autographs so they can get them and resell them and make tax-free money, okay, are the ones that become, we'll say, the critics and the haters, right? The loudest critics and the haters. It's brutal. I mean, calling for this person to be fired, that person to be fired. If there's some folks that say, hey, let's ride out the season and you deal with it. That didn't happen at USC today. Their defensive coordinator screws up against Washington and he gets fired.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not going to happen in Notre Dame until the end of the season unless it's really, really bad, right?
Yeah.
Van Gorder's the example of that.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. But in the end, there's a different way of handling things at Notre Dame. No, it's not the grades. It's not this. I believe that there's just a lot of this talk on the outside from the perimeter of the fan base that just gets in these folks' heads.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I that's all that I can say. I mean, that's all that I can attribute it to.
Well, and George, you said we've talked about this before, and a big factor of it too is a lot of people like to live vicariously through these coaches and these players.
Yep.
Yeah. The things that they could never do, they think they can do it there, being the armchair quarterbacks on social media. Now, I'll say this myself. Yeah, I got mad yesterday. I was pissed off at how we played, but I am nowhere near going to say anything that I'm like any of those players on the field or the coaches on the sidelines. Because I at least get mad because I want the team to succeed, not because I want to be a quote realist and hope they lose just so I can be right.
It's as I posted today, it's a relationship by convenience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you combine that with the unrealistic expectation that a lot of fans set themselves. It is, do you honestly think Okay, do you honestly think that in year 2 of this Freeman era that we're in, that Notre Dame is going to win the national championship? I mean,
it's a work in progress.
Who was the last coach to win a national title? Okay, that was Lou Holtz. What year did he do that in his tenure? The 3rd year. Okay, so you're going to take a guy that has literally never coached. Okay, he has never been a head coach before. Okay, and you're going to say in his 2nd year of actual coaching, not anything else, in his actual 2nd year of coaching, he is going to take a team and win the national title. That's an unrealistic expectation. I'm sorry. Like that is so unfair to Freeman and the players, because we've seen it. George has seen it. You've seen it, Sean. People start calling for Freeman. Okay. He is literally in year 2. Year 2.
Now, of course,
the same mistakes that he's making, quote unquote, are the same mistakes that guys that are like Dabo Sweeney and like Urban Meyer and like Brian Kelly and like guys who have been around the game a lot longer.
Kirby Smart.
I mean, and you're calling for his head? You're calling for players to be benched? Like, how is that right? I mean,
it's not.
I'm sorry.
Well,
like, that's just...
There's a double standard within the fan base. As you started off with, Sean, beginning of the season, everybody loved Sam Hartman. He was the next coming, right? He was the next greatest thing. And then people get film and they get all this stuff. There's nothing secretive about Sam Hartman, right? This is his fifth year in college football.
6th.
Huh?
6th.
So there's nothing new there, right? So now you got to break it down further. Well, what was the difference? Well, schemes, the way plays were being run, no one having any real tape on the Notre Dame offense. And then you got to change things up. If you could sit there in the fan, if fans can sit out there and know what plays come in next, guess what? A coach on the sidelines is going to starts to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
If they make you one dimensional, right? It's not too hard. They force you to go to your weakness.
Yep.
Now yesterday, it just got in their head. They got down and they couldn't come back. And I'll be honest with you, that's what makes a champion, is being in those moments, offense and defense, being out there and making a play happen. You got to make the play happen. You can't rely on the refs, right? We always say that the refs are against Notre Dame anyway. But you have to go out there and you have to make the play.
Yep, exactly.
Who's going to go out? Who's going to be that guy that's going to make the play? And it doesn't have to be a guy, because it has to be a team. It's a series of activities that go into getting that one great play. It's all got to work together.
Oh, exactly. I mean, you got to have someone blocking for you to get the ball downfield. So it's one thing after another.
Well, and you need that. And then on the other side, you need that pressure on the quarterback to be like Xavier Watts making the interception. There's all these cogs that go to the machine, that is the football team.
Exactly. Well, guys, I know this has been a great discussion talking about all this, but we kind of got off track and forgot about Wake Forest.
Sorry.
No, this is perfect. This is a perfect segue, because these are the things you got to do with Wake Forest. I mean, this is all of everything we've talked about is the game within the game, and the mindset and the culture and the vibe and stuff. You're licking your wounds. You have no opportunity live action wise to right and fix your mistakes until Wake Forest. Wake Forest gets to come in either off of a win or off of a loss and hit somebody before they play you. You have to wait. So how does that translate? What do you key in on?
Extra practice, extra hard. Everything you did wrong, you got to look at the tape and fix it.
Yes.
So, I mean, we know what we have in Wake Forest. We see a team that is 4-5, a team that's really only had 2 not so good games in the loss to Georgia Tech and the loss to Virginia Tech, Everybody expected them to lose to Clemson, but it was a close loss. Everybody expected them to lose against Florida State. Florida State made them look silly, which Florida State's made just about everybody look silly so far this season. So, but you've done well against big teams. You've done well against Duke. You've done well against Clemson. Took everything they had to beat you. Now you come into a team like Notre Dame and you go, we hung with Clemson. And if we can hang with Clemson, we can hang with Notre Dame.
Exactly.
And not only can we hang with Notre
Dame, the extra sauce on there is I want to beat the crap out of Sam Hartman.
Right. They took our guy, and the guy that I've never been allowed to hit through all 4 or 5 years of my playing time because the coaches don't want me hurting their golden boy, is now on the other side, and I get to hit him as hard as I want.
Exactly.
This is not going to be the mutual respect.
Oh, no.
We saw in the Pitt game when we saw our former running back playing for Pitt. I'm sorry. There will not be any, I'm going to help you off the ground, or I'm going to hit you a little bit softer than I probably would have if you were somebody else. We're not going to see that.
No, they're going to
do the opposite with Wake Forest and Notre Dame.
No, they're going to try to knock him on his ass, and they're going to say, "Hey, Sam, how's your what's the term I'm thinking of?
How's that rib feeling?
Yeah, did you find
how's your NIL doing?
Right.
Yeah, did you find your gold at the end of the rainbow? How's that going for you?" That's what they're going to say.
Yep.
And it's true. Like I said, we've lost every big postseason chance we have. Now we're just playing for the absolute best bowl game we can get in a 9-3 record.
Yep. But what's Wake Forest playing for?
They're playing to beat Notre Dame, and they're trying to play for bowl eligibility as well.
And nothing would be sweeter. Nothing would be sweeter for them than to put 2 final notches in their belt to make a bowl game, with one of them being Ohio State, being Notre Dame and Sam Hartman.
Exactly. You're right. Because let's see, because they get NC State next week. So yeah, they really could be coming in with a chance to become bowl eligible by beating us.
Yep.
So yeah, so there's a lot at stake here for both teams when you think about it.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot. Yeah.
There's more for Notre Dame to lose in this game.
Well, and also something else to point out too. I mean, we covered Wake Forest's quarterback situation. Let's talk about their running game real quick. They've got 3 running backs. Their top 3 running backs all average at least just about 4.5 yards per carry. Obviously, the leader being Claiborne, 574 yards, 4.5 yards a carry, 5 touchdowns. So it's going to be another fun day trying to stop the run.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, 4 yards ain't bad at all. I mean,
no,
you get 3 runs of 4 yards each. You got to for yourself first down.
Well, listen, that's exactly how we were coached when I was in high school. We were always coached. You get 4 yards of play. You got your opponent right where you want them.
Yep.
So you got that to deal with. The receiving game doesn't look horrible. I mean, Banks, Mon, Williams, your top 3. Even your 4th running receiver, Grimes, he's chipped in with just about 300 yards. So it's going to be another tough day defending the pass. But thankfully, we're healthy back there with Watts, and Benjamin Morris still has been playing. Even though yesterday against Clemson sucked, he had a nice game. So
yeah.
All I'm saying is you could break this down piece by piece like we usually do. We could talk about this player and what he does, that player and what he does, and so on. But the point is, this is a team that is capable of pulling off an upset, and like you said earlier, Ben, being able to stick around.
Yeah. Well, and the more you stick around, the more chances you have to win the game. If you're out of it by halftime, like we saw against Southern Cal, now it's a way bigger mountain.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're sticking around, it's not a mountain anymore. It's a molehill.
And here's where you got to look. This is where you got to take the look in the mirror, right? You have Wake Forest coming into this week's game, okay, has the 68th ranked defense. Okay?
Not too shabby.
You go to the overall rankings because that's where Notre Dame's going to fall in. Well, just for ease of looking at it, 12th. Okay? So worse than that, okay, Clemson was 20. Okay? So sometimes when you try and look at data should point out to you, if you do your homework, right, this is how a game should go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's where these coaches are, right? And this is maybe this is where the problem lies, folks. Maybe it lies we're relying too much on statistics.
Yep.
Okay? This is where we call it in my line of work death by analytics. Okay, you get wrapped up in the minutia of the metrics and see what it's telling you, and then you start coaching that. Folks, just play the game.
Yep.
Don't think about what's going on in the moment.
Yep.
Because there's no way a number 12 defense should be losing to a number 20 defense, and there should be no way that a number 12 defense loses to a 68 ranked defense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's why it takes the total team. They say numbers don't lie, and that's my world. Numbers don't lie. Right? That's a game that we should have won. That's a game that Notre Dame should have won.
Yep.
And there's no way, but you gotta look in the mirror and say, what did I do wrong? And own it.
Yeah. And that's from the players to the coaches. Everybody should be looking in the mirror and asking themselves that question.
Yep.
For sure.
Well, that leads into the perfect segue to
you beat me to the punch, Ben.
Score predictions.
So
predictions.
Well, George, you're our guest.
Yep. And the numbers never lie.
Yeah, exactly. So George, you give us your score prediction first, since you're our guest.
Wake Forest versus Notre Dame, huh?
Yeah.
Senior day, coming off the loss, licking the wounds, wanting to play. I wouldn't want to be the next team coming in, right? You don't. So I want to go with, let's be honest, I'm going to go with a 45-20 score.
Nice. I like it.
I could be comfortable with that.
I dig it.
All right.
You're up, John, because I went first last time.
That's right, you did. All right, I'm really trying to think about this. Because obviously Wake Forest is not the same kind of opponent as Clemson is. But it just depends how we practice the week leading up to the game. You got a bye week. Can we take advantage of it?
You got 2 weeks of practice, so you got 2 weeks of practice leading to the game.
Well, I'm at a week off. Week off. Yeah, but yes.
Yes, 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yes, 2 weeks, you're right. But that week off of not having to play anybody. I'm gonna say, this might shock you guys a little bit, but I'm gonna say Notre Dame 34, Wake Forest 21.
Okay.
I gotta see how we respond after what happened against Clemson yesterday.
I like it.
That works.
All right. I say Notre Dame 56, Wake Forest 20. Because
I almost went with a 50 number, by the way, but I peered it back a little bit.
2 reasons. Okay. Senior day and we're angry. And the biggest one, and this is something that a lot of us in this neck of the woods talks about, time of year. This is the first game for Wake Forest that they play not in the South.
True.
They have Syracuse on their schedule, and they have Pittsburgh on their schedule, but Pittsburgh was a home game, and Syracuse is at the very end of the year. Everybody they've played has been in the South so far. You have not traveled actual north, if you will, and it's going to be cold. In the middle of November, go ahead. Middle of November, it's cold, could be a little rainy or snowy. Rain's a little different when it's freezing out.
We were in a blizzard last year, Ben. Remember that when BC
For
came
senior
to town.
day. Yeah, no, I remember the Boston College senior day from last year.
What time is that? What time is the Wake Forest game?
That's a good question.
I
It
think
is a 2:30 start time, according
Okay,
to
well, I could tell you, looking at the weather 2 weeks out.
Mhm.
Okay, high of 50 degrees, low of 38.
Mhm.
Okay, so
And we've had the time change now too, so the sun's going to go down quicker.
high of 50, low of 38, and rain.
Yep.
Rain is in the forecast.
Mhm.
Now, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to get cold to the point where it's going to snow, but if that wind's kicking in,
Mhm.
it's saying right now winds 10 to 15 miles an hour.
Yep.
So that's going to be a cold, wet day.
Yep. Time for an estimate field day.
Yep.
Let's run the ball.
Yep.
And he's 12 yards away from a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah. So I think we can get to that 1,000-yard season. If we can't, I'll be very sad.
Well, and also I predicted him, Ben, to have 15 touchdowns or more, and he's like I think 2 away from that. Yeah, 2 away.
He's an absolute monster. I mean,
You got to mix it up. Off tackle, go some off tackle stuff. Line a couple folks up in the backfield, see what's going to happen. You know, that's the stuff that when Notre Dame was winning and really punishing opponents, those were things that they were doing. And it's kind of gone away from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. It's stick with what works, you know.
Yep.
I don't know.
There you have it, though.
Yeah, I know. This was a lot of talk, and
if ands or buts.
No, just go get it done.
Yep.
And I'm telling you right now, my score prediction. I know I sound like the least optimistic, but I just don't know how they're going to respond after the bye week, and I hope it's one of your guys' scores. I really do.
Yeah, we will see.
I think less than 45 points. That's a disappointment.
Yes. No, I agree.
Senior day, Sam Hartman's absolute last game.
Yep.
Okay, before he goes to the NFL, he needs to have a career day at home.
Yep.
Sending him into that last game of the season.
Yep. Exactly. I agree.
Because things that are dropping, his NFL quarterback stock is dropping. I'm glad we're not even talking Heisman candidate anymore. Okay. Folks jump into that too quick. He seems like he's kind of grounded that he doesn't have to worry about that and think about that.
Yeah.
But, I'm just glad all that stuff is right off the table. Right now, it could be worse. He could be Caleb Williams. He's a little more mature than that. Caleb Williams saying he wants to go home with his dog and watch some shows in his post-game interview. And I'm sure Sam Hartman's post-game interview went a completely different way. Right. So he's mature. He just needs to take care of business.
Yeah. Yes. And so that's where we are right now. We got to take care of business these last 2 games and just try for the absolute best bowl game that we can get. And hopefully it's against a quality opponent too.
It could be against LSU.
Well, I didn't think about that, but everybody online is hoping for that. And after yesterday, that could become a real possibility.
It's becoming a reality at the moment. So
you know the NCAA is crunching those numbers,
right?
And how do we get that to happen?
The Notre Dame LSU
game. That could be one of the most sought after bowl games.
That'd be a
hot ticket outside the NY6.
That'd be a really hot ticket. And you look at our past 2 against LSU too in football. Our past 2 against LSU have been not, when I say impressive victories, not like we kicked the crap out of them, but like we came back and won on the last play of the game. They've been impressive, fun games.
Yes,
if you will. So now this is the perfect place to end, and hopefully, I don't know.
I just want to say one thing. Whatever bowl game we get, I hope it's a good one and not one of those crappy sponsored bowls. You guys know what I'm talking about.
I want a quality opponent.
Yes.
I don't want somebody that's going to be. I don't want someone that's going to be, 7-5.
Right.
6-6 is an even worse person to play against. Okay.
Yes.
I want it to be someone that has an equal record as us. Okay,
Yes.
as Notre Dame, and right now LSU slides right in there. They're right in that number area.
Yeah. And myself, I want it to be on a respected stage. Like if it was the Citrus Bowl or even the Gator Bowl again, I'd like that. Because they're like I said, there's small bowl games that are respectable. But anyway, I digress. You guys know me and the whole pineapple bowl story.
Yes.
You know what? Real quick before we sign off, if I even have it on here. No, I don't have it on here.
Oh, I thought I was going to make a cameo for a second.
Well, I was, but I can't find it. It's not on. Oh, wait. There it is.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. The Pineapple Bowl. Taken right off the TV show Coach. So that's a good spot then. How about that?
Oh, boy. So, with that said, I am Benjamin Walters.
I am Sean Moriarty.
And I'm the guest guy, George Bashura.
And thank you guys all for watching. Hope the extra time was worth it. And as we always say, good night, God bless, and go Irish.
Go Irish.